Hello, my name is Miguel Samudio. For my presentation, I will be talking about the visualization of COVID-19 in the California counties. I wanted to examine the data source I got from catalogdata.gov. This data set is large with over 50,000 rows and 8 columns. The topic I'll be talking about is their COVID-19 outbreak in California. I'll be looking how the counties that were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm going to examine how the patients were affected by the virus and see how the counties are doing today and that are still dealing with COVID-19. For my table of contents, I'll be talking about the data from the California counties, and I'll give an example of the data from Excel. I'll go over the visualizations that I made and see what we can find out on how COVID-19 affected the counties and the patients. The visualization we'll see are how many confirmed COVID cases for each county and each year, which county had how many ICU patients confirmed COVID cases, a terrain map of 12 random counties from the past 3 years of suspected cases of COVID, and which county had the most ICU beds available to use, and a dashboard to summarize the visualizations. I will go over the challenges I had with the data and the visualization that I went through. I'll go over my results from the visualization and the data, and I'll give a conclusion and give my sources of what I use. Here we have a piece of data from the COVID-19 hospitals by county. Here we see the data for each county, how many patients that are confirmed, suspected, or hospitalized with COVID. We see the hospital beds per county as well. Here we see the ICU patients with confirmed, suspected, and how many available beds in the ICU. This data set is from March of 2020 to November of 2022. So this data set gives us information at the start of COVID, the height of the COVID-19 outbreak, and the current information of COVID-19. This data set, at first for me, it looked confusing and hard to deal with so many rows, so many, just a lot of data. But with the visualizations that I made, I believe we can understand the data easier and better. For my first graph, I want to show how many patients have confirmed COVID cases for each county for each year. For my first slide, we see Los Angeles and Orange County was heavily affected by COVID each year. But the trend we see in the data that each year it's getting better and better for the county and the state of California. I wanted to point out counties that have little population of about 10,000 to 2,000 population, so very small population. Counties like Modoc and Trinity were not really impacted by COVID-19 these past 3 years, with barely under 100 cases at the height of pandemic. Now, both counties have 100 or less cases in the year of 2020 alone. Overall, with both counties heavily populated and have a small population, both are showing a trend that the confirmed cases are lowering each year. Here is the map of California. We see in red which counties which counties that are dark red are, or very dark, are having the worst cases, and the ones that are very light have low cases. We see that this is how many patients they had in the ICU with confirmed cases. Here, I pointed out Los Angeles having over 100,000 cases each year, but in 2020, as of November, they almost have 500,000 cases. And I want to showcase one smaller county with a population of about 10,000 or less, which was Modoc, which had had no ICU confirmed cases these past 3 years. The trend continues with Los Angeles that even the bigger counties we see on the map, there is less ICU confirmed cases with smaller population, ICU cases are so low or non-existent. For my next graph, I made a tree map of 12 random counties I just picked of the suspected cases of the confirmed and suspected of the ICU patient and hospitalized patients for the past 3 years. I want to pull in random data and see what information I could get. Here are some counties like Los Angeles, San Diego having many suspected cases in the hospital. But I see counties like Modark and Trinity having 0 suspected cases and having less than 100 patients in the hospital that are suspected with COVID in the hospital. The data that I'm getting and discovering we're seeing that is that the small counties are not really affected by COVID, unlike big counties like Los Angeles and San Diego. For my next graph, I want to showcase what county had the most available ICU beds. Again, we see Los Angeles having the most beds available because of the high population the county has. We see in 2020 the counties have more beds available, but in 2021 they have less beds available, and in 2022 they're having more available beds again. This is a sign that there is less COVID cases that require ICU beds. Here, I want to showcase the dashboard of all my visualizations I've done. The information we see in the dashboard gives us a summary of what I talked about, and it shows how COVID is doing in the past 3 years in the counties in California. Challenges I had with the data is I would have wanted the suspected COVID deaths. This could have given us some information that if someone died of, for example, pneumonia, it could have been a COVID death. So that's something I could have wanted in the data set. I think it could have given more information. I would have wanted to confirm COVID deaths to show how many people died from COVID and see how many people and the families it did affect because of the deaths. I would have wanted to know the vaccine count because we could have determined and compared the information to see how the vaccines lowered COVID deaths and or suspected cases. And I want to see how many ventilators that were used and compared, and how many ICU units and confirmed cases that were with them. It would have been interesting to see that in the data set. Challenges that I had were I'm still trying to make better graphs. I still consider myself a beginner of using Tableau. So I hope the visualization I did present were appealing. I'm still trying to get more confident on the data and the visualizations I could present. So I hope my graphs and the data I did present were excellent. I did my best with some feedback from the homeworks I followed. I followed the staff first 4 C's of data visualization of being clear, clean, precise, and captivating, which I felt like I overcame this challenge during this presentation. The results from the visualization tells us that the COVID cases are getting less each year because of new medicines and vaccines. This is a good sign that COVID is getting more under control. Less patients are being confirmed with COVID cases in the hospital each year. This is showing us that COVID is becoming less serious in the hospitals. Less patients are being confirmed with ICU with COVID each year. This is probably the greatest information to hear because on the National Health Institute's website by the United States Health Department Human Services, it tells us that severe COVID can lead to low oxygen levels or critical COVID leads to respiratory failure and septic shock. So having less ICU cases each year is great because less people will deal with severe COVID or critical illness COVID. Small counties like Modark are not really affected by COVID-19 with very low cases for the past 3 years. Even at the height of the pandemic, they still have very little cases because of the low population they live in. Here are my sources that I use for the data set and to get my population for each county and some other COVID information that I shared during my presentation. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.